Okay, good morning, everyone. It's Friday, the 26th day of Iyar, and last night we counted 41 days of the Omer. We continue chapter 41 in the Tanya, and in chapter 51, I meant to say. Yes, we're getting ready to conclude the Tanya of the 53 chapters, the first part of the Tanya. So in this chapter, the Alter Rebbe was asking, what does it mean that Hashem, there is the divine presence in us, in the temple? What does it mean that God is dwelling in certain places or certain people, for that matter? Isn't God everywhere? And in order to understand this, the Alter Rebbe said we can understand it by understanding the way us humans, when the way with our soul, the soul and the way the soul animates the body. And he explained that in the soul you have this two opposites. On the one hand, we say the soul is not defined by anything, and yet the soul is in every part. In other words, the soul animating the body. There's two ways the soul animates the body. On the one hand, the soul is everywhere, and every part of our body is equally alive. The head, the brain, and the foot, everything is it's alive equally. But at the same time, there's also on the other end, there is the differences. There is the different powers that we have. There is the brain, the intellect of the brain, and there is the power to see, the power to hear. Everything has a different, unique power that we receive from the soul. And we explained that there's basically three stages. There is the soul itself is beyond definition. It is indivisible. And on the other hand, you have each particular organ and particular unique powers. And then there is the middle stage. The middle stage is in the brain, wherein the brain receives that all of this, the package of power, potential powers, for lack of another term. The potential power that it has that comes in the brain. And from the brain, it goes to the rest of the body. So this is, the Alter Rebbe explains, this is an analogy that mi besari echaz Eloka, from my flesh I see God. The way I see the way our body works and the way our system works, I can understand a little bit of how Hashem animates the world. That in the one hand, we say that God is everywhere, equally. And that is when we're talking about the essence of God. But in the same time, that essence of God is equally concealed from everywhere. That even the greatest levels, we're talking about the most spiritual worlds, they are concealed. The godliness, the essence of God is completely concealed. But yet, Hashem comes and created a world that each creature in this world receives a unique type of energy and light that comes from Hashem that is uniquely designed to this creature. And so how does it work? So Alter Rebbe explains that this is the way Hashem conceals and contracts his great light, and the energy. And this is how each individual receives its own unique, limited and contracted light and energy in order to exist the way it is. Let's continue inside. Where's the Alter Rebbe? So now we said that there is higher worlds and there is lower worlds. Okay, And all of them, the higher, the lower, they all receive light from Hashem himself, that the energy that comes from Hashem. And the essence of Hashem is equally in the same. However, the way it is in the world, the way it is concealed in the world, there is a difference between how much of this energy is contracted. So in the higher world, there's much less contraction, and is more revealed than in the lower world. The difference between the higher and the lower worlds is with regard to the flow and vitality, which the blessed Ein Sof causes to flow and illuminate in a manner of a revelation out of concealment. Okay, what does it mean? And as we'll continue to, after the parentheses, we'll go back to this. Thereby animating the worlds and creatures therein. So herein lies the difference between the higher and the lower worlds. The higher worlds receive more light, less concealed, and the lower worlds receive more concealed. The light is concealed. For the higher world receive this vitality and light in a somewhat more revealed form than do the lower. And we go back to the parentheses. The Alter Rebbe says, it says as follows. He says, this is one of the reasons why the influence and flow of this vitality is figuratively called light. What is the Alter Rebbe saying? He's saying that the concept of the flow, the energy that comes from Hashem, in other sources refer to it as shefa. What does shefa mean? Shefa means an affluence that flows. Seemingly, that would be very more appropriate to refer to this energy that comes from Hashem versus what we call it here in the Kabbalah and Hasidus. They call it the or, the light. So why not call it shefa? So we explained in the previous lessons, and the Rebbe says here in short that what is the difference between shefa and or, between the affluence that flows and the light? So the shefa is something that comes, that there is something that comes is in a way that really the giver is invested in it, and the giver gives from him. For example, one of the ideas of shefa, it says shefa yamim. There is the affluence of water. So if you have an ocean of water, and you'll take 1 cup of water, so that ocean is missing a cup, even though it might be not significant, but it's still the giving of the water. There's another example to use for shefa, which perhaps is closer to understanding the influence that comes from God, which is the shefa of a teacher teaching a student. When a teacher teaches a student, if he's a good teacher, he's going to invest himself in the student, and he's going to give and focus on what the student needs, and therefore it's going to come in a certain way designed to give to the student. That is shefa. On the other hand, the or is something light. Light is something that comes It's not that the light, the luminary, focuses on certain places to give here, to give there. The same light that shines on the most beautiful mansion shines also on a garbage dump. It's the same sun. So the or, therefore, he says, meaning that this is something that which is not dependent on and is not invested in the receiver. This comes directly from the source. However, there is still a difference between light and the example, what we use it here to Hashem's influence, because light, once there is a luminary, the luminary has no choice whether to light or not, whether to shine here or shine there. It comes without choice, comes automatically. But by Hashem, even though he's not limited in the form that Shefa is limited, and it gives everywhere, but in the same time, it is still within only the will of Hashem. It is within his will to give the light. But in any case, this is what he says, that's why the Chassidus, the Kabbalah, they refer to it as this energy that comes from Hashem, refers to it as light. Which again, that means that this is the light that comes and flows everywhere. And the difference between one place and one level and another level is how much this light is concealed or revealed. When it comes to a place where it's no revelation, then it's very bright. When it comes through curtains and concealment, then it gets darker. That's just one way of understanding this. That's what Alter Rebbe says. This is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons that the influence on the flow of this vitality is figuratively called light. So we said that this is light that comes, by animating the world and all the creatures therein. But the higher worlds receive this vitality and light in a somewhat more revealed form than do the lower. And all the creatures therein, in the higher world, receive the revealed aspects of vitality, albeit each according to its capacity and nature. So he says, just as in the analogy, each bodily organ receives vitality from the brain according to its character and nature. The eyes receives an energy that enables you to see. The ear receives an energy that enables you to hear, and so on. So too does the Alter Rebbe state in the analog, that each creature receives its vitality according to its capacity and nature. And the Rebbe notes that this means that each being receives vitality according to its capacity to have the life force and vitality revealed within it, and according to the manner in which this vitality is to be revealed, whether as a revelation of intellect or comprehension, or in an emotive manner. But this is not to say that the nature conceals the revelation. Rather, it imbues and illumines it. What does that mean? He says that this is what we spoke about it yesterday and the day before, about what determines the energy that comes to the light, to the certain organs. Is it the eye, for example, the eye itself, does the eye determine the type of energy that comes from the brain to give it sight? Or is it already in the brain, the power of sight that is emerging from the brain and comes to the eye? And that's what the Rebbe points out, that it is the latter. It is the fact that within the brain itself, there is already in potential a power and an energy that is designed to give sight. It's already in the brain. And that is why we mentioned yesterday that you can see the brain feels each and every function, each and every organ, and it can identify if there's a problem with a certain organ. The brain identifies right away that the problem is in this organ and not in the other organ. If it would be an equal and similar plane energy that comes from the brain and forming the energy, designing this energy to this particular organ within the organ, then the brain would not feel the difference. So this continues the Alter Rebbe. Shehi tchunas ubchinas amshocha aprotis asher ein sof baruch hu mamshich u'meir loi. This is the nature and form of a particular flow with which the blessed Ein Sof imbues and illumines it. So it comes down from the ultimate, from the essence, from the very essence of Hashem. And here is not talking yet about the middle stage. Here is talking about the essence of Hashem and the final result, which is the individual level, individual world, individual creature that receives the individual energy that fits to this particular creature. Continues the Alter Rebbe, and later on, the next chapter, the Alter Rebbe is going to talk about the middle stage, the stage where all of this comes in potential. So it says, but the lower worlds and creatures, even the spiritual ones, do not receive the divine life force in quite such a revealed form as it is received in the higher worlds. רק בלבושים רבים, אשר אין סוף ברוך הוא, מלבש בהם החייס והאור, אשר ממשיך ומאיר להם לחייסם. It comes only by means of many garments, wherein the blessed Ein Sof invests the vitality and light, which he causes to flow and shine on them in order to animate them. So the divine life force is garbed in many garments so as not to be revealed. Now, this concealment involves not only multifunctious profusions of garments, a quantitative manner of concealment, but a qualitative one as well. There is a vast difference between the insubstantial garments that conceal the vitality in the higher worlds and the much denser garments necessary to conceal the godly vitality to the degree that the creation of the physical becomes possible. So this is, we're going to continue in tomorrow's lesson, is going to say this, that the different levels of concealment of this godly light. But all of this leads to the explanation of what the Alter Rebbe began in this chapter, understanding what does it mean that God is in one place more than in another place? What does it mean that we have the Shechina on our heads? And that we need the fuel to give the oil, to give the fuel to get the Shechina stay, the fire of the Shechina on our heads. All of these explanations leads to the better understanding of this concept, that there is the essence of God that is everywhere equally, because it's beyond definition. The higher, lower, it's all the same by the essence of Hashem. And the essence of God is everywhere equally and is concealed equally from every level. Even the most highest spiritual levels, it is essence of God is equally concealed. And yet, in the same time, there is places where the light of God that shines forth after the contraction, that Hashem contracted his essence, contracted his light, and it shined forth to create all of different creatures, that there is a difference between one level and another level, as much as how much concealment there was, how many filters there was, what type of filtering there was. That all make the difference of how much godliness there is. So I want to wish you all a very good Shabbos, and we shall continue B'ezrat Hashem Sunday. Any questions?